Lads, I kid you not. I think I may potentially have reached a point in my life where I'm actually living in front of this laptop. I think that's what's happened. How are you? Good evening and welcome to episode 28 of Shelf Analysis. And thanks a million for joining us live on the show tonight. I've a lot to tell you about, and there are tons happening. Genuinely, maybe just before I did that, thank you to Graham Norton, who is our guest on Tuesday night's Shelf Analysis. You can, of course, find it back in the YouTube channel, and you'll find it back in the older videos here. Also on RTE Culture today, and they've stuck it up there as well. There's almost 4,000 views of that interview, either here in the book club or on the YouTube channel since Tuesday night. It has been substantially viewed, and thank you very much to him for coming on. And he was an absolutely wonderful and lovely guest, and only says nice things about everybody else as well, and that's really the way to be. How are you? It's a genuine question. You can leave comments below here, and I'll answer your questions as much as our guest tonight will, and as much as anyone else will. It has been a few weeks where, and no one wants to hear this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, on the off chance you're interested. I think today is where it all kind of finishes up, because for the last few weeks I've just constantly, my arse has not hit the ground. I'm on the internet, I can say that word. And this week in particular, I spent this afternoon recording videos with the wonderful Sinead Moriarty for the new Easton Must-Read list, the summer list that's coming out. We filmed all of our videos, me sitting here. I did an award ceremony. I did the Student Enterprise Awards, the national ones, live yesterday, sitting in this seat, in this room. And 28 episodes of Shelf Analysis so far, and a ton of other things that I've all been part of and involved in, and interviews that we've done. For thank you to everybody who came to the UCD festival last weekend as well. That just went so well. But after this, aside from obviously my actual job tomorrow, and then my actual job Saturday on Radio 1 and on RTE Gold, I actually have a couple of days off. And then next week, I only have to do my actual real job, which is present the radio show on RTE Gold. There's nothing on next week. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with myself. Things you need to know about. Let's get cracking. Maybe you were listening to... no, let's start with this first. You know what? I'm going to start with this first. This weekend normally would have found me in Listowel in County Kerry for Writers' Week. In fact, it was Wednesday. I think I was there last year. So I was there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I think a little bit of Sunday as well. In order to remind us, the wonderful Ger Holland, the photographer, has started putting up pictures in a strand on her Twitter feed. Go and have a look if you get the chance. These are just a couple she stuck up today. So that's me last year at Writers' Week interviewing Emily Pine, who you see immediately behind me, Nicole Flattery, who you don't, just beyond that, at an event that we did. It was 11 o'clock in the morning in the Listowel Arms Hotel, and it was very much, tea and cakes, and we thought it would be well attended. The room was full. They then had to open up a secondary room beside that and set up a set of speakers so that people could hear Emily and Nicole and what they had to say, because it was so well attended. I just love that photo. Ger takes the most astonishing photos of people at Irish literary events. There are a ton of them. Stick one way. I think I've got one more from here. I don't know if you remember. The genesis of these shows is something we did at Listowel last year called Right Hawks. Right Hawks, we did 3 of them on 3 separate nights, and the idea was I would host. It would be late night. It was about 11 o'clock after everything else had finished in the Listowel Arms Hotel, and we would have a panel of people, not there to talk about their work, really, not there to talk about the festival, really, but mostly to talk about books that they liked and that they thought people should read. Every night we had a different panel of authors. We had some of the most incredible people on those 3 panels. Kit Duvall was on one, Will Dean was on one, Katrina Crowe was on one, Orla Guerin was on one, and this panel that you see here, including Emily Pine and Douglas Kennedy. Liz was on one of them. Our own Liz, who presses the pedals that make me work, was on one of those panels last year. Ger, I know you watch these sometimes, so in case you're watching tonight, thank you so much for putting these up, because they're a lovely reminder of where we would all normally be this weekend. And your photographs are just utterly amazing. And if you've never been to Listowel, you'd like a sense of what it feels like to be there. Go and have a look. It's at G Holland Photo on Twitter is where you'll find Ger Holland and her photography. But look, you put a smile on my face today, Ger, and probably not for the first time that's happened. So thanks very much. Worth mentioning today, in case you weren't listening to, and I've got to stop calling it Today with Sean O'Rourke, because it's not anymore. It is now Today with the wonderful Sarah McInerney, who prior to myself and Louisa going on this morning was eviscerating a guest, and I was thoroughly thrilled by it. It was absolutely amazing. Sarah is doing a knockout job of temporarily presenting the Today Show on RTE Radio 1 in the morning. Hopefully she gets the job long term, because she's absolutely fantastic at it. We then talked books this morning, myself and Louisa from Raven Books in Blackrock. I recommended, I think 4. Louisa recommended, no, it was longer than that, about 6 or 7 each. You can go back, just go to the RTE Radio 1 website, click on Today with Sarah McInerney, and you'll find the details there. It's a nice bit. It's about 12, 13, actually there it is. It's 13 minutes long, and we chat about some stuff that we think that you should read across the course of the summer. Now, if you are a member of the Ricochet Book Club, if you're watching this on YouTube, maybe you don't know. But if you're a member of the Ricochet Book Club, and that's where you're watching this, end of the month, which means we are discussing our book of the month for May 2020, which was Kim Ji-young, born in 1982 by Cho Nam-ju. This is one of the books I talked about this morning on the radio as well. If you got a chance to read the book, rather, during the month, maybe you can row in, tell us what you think, tell us whether you liked it or whether you didn't. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best books I've read this year, or indeed for the last few years. It's hugely worth your time. But we've started that, and that discussion will happen over the course of the next few days. We will in the book club be announcing the June books of the month. I'm going to make it books. We're going to have 2 this month, but we've got to get back to some sense of normality. And I'll be announcing those just after the bank holiday weekend. We might do that on Tuesday, if that's okay. What else have I got to do? One more thing I want to tell you ahead of seeing what Karina is reading. And that's this. This is the YouTube channel. The plan is that next week, Shelf Analysis goes to 1 episode a week. And it's the only way I can continue to do this long term without my brain turning to mush. So starting next Wednesday, and then every Wednesday of every week, there will be a live Shelf Analysis as usual at 7 p.m. here in the Ricochet Book Club. The plan is to have it also simultaneously live in the YouTube channel. So if maybe you've got friends who aren't on Facebook, they don't do Facebook, they'd like to watch the show live as it goes out, get them to check out the YouTube channel. If you just stick Shelf Analysis into YouTube, you'll find the channel there. There's all of our previous episodes. Couldn't stick them all in one graphic, but everybody that we've spoken to in the previous 27 episodes are all there. They're well worth your time. And if you subscribe to the channel, it means people will get a chance to watch live there, hopefully, because I'm not great with the old technology, but I am trying. Next Wednesday will be the first of our episodes that will be happening live here in the Ricochet Book Club, and will also be going out live in YouTube. I've now said that out loud, which means that forces me into actually doing something about it. So it will have to have happened. Karina, our house plant. Let's see what Karina is reading tonight, or where Karina is and what she's doing tonight. Hello, Karina. How are you? Oh, good. That's a lovely, dark-looking beer you have. Do you know, it's been a long day, Karina, and I salute you wholeheartedly. Fair play. Oh, I just sit and do this for the rest of the evening. That'd be lovely. If I didn't have an amazing guest to talk to, I could just sit here and... Thank you, Karina. You're reading As You Were. Is that As You Were by Elaine Feeney? Is that one of the books that's getting most buzz this year so far by a debut Irish author, and that we should all be thinking about potentially going out and getting in our local independent bookstore and making an advance order for? Karina, who would have known? Thank you, Karina, for that. Everything okay? All good? Talk to you again on Wednesday night, yeah? Just you sit there and take it nice and early. Okay. I think I've covered everything. I think so. This is the interesting part of the show, as always. Tonight, let me press this button here and let me do this, hopefully, and in theory, go live to Galway and to Elaine Feeney.
Hey, Rick.
How are you?
I'm worried about Karina now, that she'll wither up and die after reading the book.
That is entirely unfair. I'm not straight off the bat. I am going to say straight off the bat that your book is one of the books that I was so excited most about getting out there and getting to talk to people about and getting to relentlessly push into people's hands before, obviously, what happened to everybody happened to you, and then your date got pushed out. So I'm going to talk to you about the book in a minute. Hang on, you can hold your fire. We're going to do that. But just so you know, it was absolutely one of those books that I was looking forward most to recommending to people this year. So I had to give it to Karina. She was going to eventually get a chance to read it. And, there's dark subject matter, but she'll be fine. She'll be all good. I was going to ask you, firstly, about what you were doing during lockdown and how it was treating you. But if people follow you on Twitter, they'll have seen, how many days of updates did you do? 73?
75, I think. 74,
okay.
75. I lost count myself at the end. Yeah, I did. 75.
And okay, for those people who didn't see, just tell us how has the last while been treating you?
So I started the isolation tweets, obviously, 75 days ago, which was a little bit longer than I think we were in lockdown, if that makes sense, because I put myself into it very early on. I was absolutely terrified at the beginning of it, and how has it been? You know what, Rick? Watching this shelf analysis, I've been thinking about that question. And did you ever see the Tommy Tiernan sketch that he did years ago? It's a really old one. I think it was after 9/11 in the town hall in Galway. And he does this sketch where he's watching CNN or the news in America, and he's holding his head and he's like, I know we're allowed to curse, aren't we, right? This is in quotation marks. The world is fucked, he says, the world is fucked. And then he says he goes out to the garden and the kids are outside and there's rabbits and it's beautiful and it's fine. And that's what it's really been like. It's like I've switched off the news now, and it's so utterly terrifying. And then in other moments, it's been really lovely to be at home with the kids, at home with my husband, who's actually really lovely, I've realised.
Oh, that's good to find out.
75 days in lockdown with him. So, so it's been very strange, Parts of it are lovely, then parts of it are really, really, I catastrophize it at times. And then other times you're just out in the trampoline or barbecuing out the back. The weather has been good. And look, it's utterly tragic. And some families have been through the ringer with it. But yeah, I think writers love isolation,
I think what I've taken from that is I think it's lovely for you to find that you actually genuinely like your husband. It would have been awful at this stage. The kids, there would have been a problem. And
I know.
If you guys,
and I like my kids too. Yeah, I'm just really relieved I like my family. I've been considering people who might be in really difficult situations, but no, I know that's kind of tongue in cheek. But at the same time, we were in that sort of the busy, we call it. We were meeting at the front door. Ray was getting in late. I'm always busy. The kids are always busy. Everybody's always busy. And it really has been a time to take stock of what were we busy doing, and he spends a lot of time commuting and realizes he can work from home now. And I'm 20 years teaching, and lockdown or whatever, cocooning, whatever word, it really made me really genuinely take stock of things. I've decided to take a year out next year, take a break, see, can I survive on poems?
And the book, the book is going to go well.
Yeah, it will. Thanks.
And that's a genuinely really interesting one, in that the number of people I've had conversations with who've said, what were we all so furiously doing beforehand? And we all know the answers is that, we were going out to the pub and we were meeting our friends, we were going to the movies, we were doing all the stuff that normal people do. But even with the commuting thing, you're 100% right. There's one of my wife's friends who normally would commute 2 hours to work every day and 2 hours home.
Yeah.
How did any of us justify that? Can we not find a world in which, and maybe we are right now finding a world in which we can find far more humane ways of doing the jobs that we want to do?
Oh, it's so true. And it's so tough in Galway. Like, Galway is the beautiful city that everybody loves to come to, but the traffic is insane. And I'm just hoping that now in my 75 days, when I go back in there, that they have some super duper flyover built. They have, haven't they?
Well, just as somebody who commutes in Dublin every day, and I've commuted in and out to RTE 6 days a week since this started. So at the very beginning, obviously it's 28 days later, there's no one on the streets. And even now, it's still really, really quiet out there, because I think there's still huge numbers of people who are all still working from home. So I haven't come across anything I would classify as morning rush hour yet. So we wait and see. But look,
I wonder will it changes.
Yeah, part of the reason for doing this is that we don't talk about this kind of stuff, and instead we filter off into the world of books, and we do. Firstly, Maura Logue is in contact. Maura, the lovely Maura Logue from Listowel, who says, "Will you tell Elaine that I miss her morning isolation tweets?"
Oh, sorry. Well, you see, I met my sister last week, so I felt disingenuous because I'm no longer isolated. But it has been quite isolating. I might go back to the Maura, thanks. And actually, the mention of Listowel was lovely. I miss it too.
Yeah, hugely amazing. Well, firstly, I know you've got one there, so let's not pretend we're not in the process of doing this as well. So, chin chin and cheers.
Chin chin and Jemison. Cheers.
Tell me a little bit about the book. The book has been put off until when? When's the release date?
So the book was due to come out in April, and it has been put forward, I can never know, till August the 20th. So it's going to be published come hell or high water on August the 20th. So yeah, it was real touch and go, because my book was one of those books that was just on the cusp of lockdown and whether or not we'd push it forward. And in the end, the publishers made the decision to hold it back. So yeah.
Okay, tell us
That's what's happening with it.
Tell us a little bit about what As You Were is all about.
So it is set completely on a hospital ward called The Ward, and it follows the main protagonist, Sinead Hines. She's in her late 30s and she's a mum with 3 kids. And again, she's very busy, and she gets this shocking diagnosis very early on, actually in the opening pages of the book. She gets a shocking health diagnosis, and the outlook is really, really poor for Sinead. And it really makes her take stock of, you know, what's important to her and so on. But she also keeps it a secret. She keeps her diagnosis a secret from her lovely husband, Alex, and from her 3 sons. And she actually spends 8 months with it as a complete secret, as she's getting iller and iller and sicker. And eventually she winds up in the hospital on a ward for a week, very ill, and so many things unfold on that ward. And she comes into contact with 2 brilliant matriarchs, Jane Lohan, who's in her 80s, and she's gone astray in the head, really, as she'd say herself, and this wonderful working class matriarch, Margaret Rose. Margaret Rose Sherlock has 2 great daughters, Nikita and Michaela, and their lives unfold, and the complications of their lives unfold on the ward. And Sinead is a very unwilling patient, and she doesn't like to hear the stories of other people. But for anyone that's been in hospital on a ward, you can't block out sound. So it's a real auditory chamber, auditory place. So she hears all these stories, and eventually she changes. It really deeply changes her, actually, the experience, and the women, and they're strangers. So it's like the comfort of strangers she's able to tell things to that she wasn't able to tell for all of her life to her family. So that's basically the premise of it. But yeah.
You and I met initially first time around because you're a poet, and you're a very well known poet, and you know we've done events together in festivals prior to all of this. What has the novel been brewing for a long time? Has it been something that's just been bubbling under? Is it something that came quite quickly?
It didn't come quickly. So I was sick some years back myself, and spent some time in hospital, quite long periods of time in hospital. And I remember my mum asked me not to write any poems about that time because she found it so traumatic. So of course I came out immediately with a collection of poetry, and then I decided that the I in the poems wasn't really reflecting the colour or the world that a hospital is, the institution. I mean, the hospitals, they're slap bang in the middle of cities, but when you go into them, they're a whole other world, you know, it's a whole other community. And I just really wanted to reflect the colour and the ambience and the camaraderie, really, especially between women in times of crisis, you know. And I started it, and I really was, I think I put a tweet up yesterday, like a penguin with a crayon writing novels, because I'm working on a novel too now. And I just, 12 chapters of just this stream of consciousness start, didn't know where I was going. And then in a kind of a Dickensian way, it sounds a bit lofty, but the characters did come forward, and they were larger than life, and they really spoke to me. In fact, Margaret Rose still hangs around, and there's 2 magpies right now across in the field. So the magpie and Margaret Rose hang around. But it took a long time, and I'm ever so grateful that, you know, my agent took me on, God bless him, with this big tome, and the editor as well. So we worked through it. But yeah, the characters, I love dialogue, I love dramas, I love plays. And I look back now and I think what had compelled me to write poetry, I think coming out of university, angsty, political, before repeal, before marriage equality, I was quite political. And yeah, I changed as well, I think. And I have more time, the kids are older.
And you can't keep writing poems about Ryan Giggs forever either, which is a whole other moment.
Well, that's funny, because when you said there about Listowel, I remember the last time I was in Listowel, I did a panel with Micheál Herthig and Tony Ward and Luca Bloom and Enda Wiley. And I remember they had me to read Ryan Giggs as a ride, and I was mortified in front of Micheál Herthig reading it. Anyway, that's enough about the poem.
You are going to be asked to read that poem for the rest of your life. When you win the Booker, it's going to be Any Chance of Ryan Giggs as a Ride, please.
If I win the Booker, I will read it anywhere at any time.
The book is, I read it much earlier in the year. The book is exceptional. It's absolutely beautiful. It is one of the most anticipated Irish books of the latter half of this year, and rightly so. Sinead Gleeson has just left a message here saying, "Delighted you're on tonight, Elaine. I'm so excited for people to read your wonderful book." There is an enormous enormous amount of love for this. Go out, look, do yourself a favor. You can do a pre-advance order with your local bookstore. Find it somewhere. Just go and say, any chance you can keep one of those for me in August, and you won't regret it. Right, we're done with that bit. Let's do the other bit, which is you picking 3, 4, 5, whatever you've got in front of you, and you have a few. You've
well,
brought
Rick,
the
you
brief.
said 5, so I have 6, 7. Okay. Right. So it's quite Galway themed. Okay. So, Galway being the best city in the world and county. So, but sadly, Galway's 2020 really fell apart on them, and from the very beginning, from the weather and then COVID and so on. But this book is centered around Galway 2020. It's Galway Stories 2020 by the wonderful Dura Press based in Connemara.
Lisa celebrating an anniversary this week. 10 years this
Lisa
week.
Frank and John Walsh, congratulations. They're 10 years in business. And it is a publisher that has really punched above its weight. Like they published Amarini Curran and they published Belfast Stories before this. So they have Alan McMonigal editing 20 short stories, Galway themed to celebrate Galway based. But it really is a joy to read this collection. It's a short story collection. And I think at the moment, I've been really into short story collections. I've been come back to John McGovern, Tobias Wolff, and I think this is a really, really good one. There's some great stories in there. Today I was sitting outside in the sun and I read a story by Una Mannion, In Between, and it really reminded me of UCG, NUIG back in the day, and Una's novels coming out with Faber and Faber, and June Caldwell, Eva McCann, Orla Foyle, and Aoife Casby. They're all in there. Aoife's flying it. Aoife Casby's story, John, is wonderful. So this is really a wonderful short story collection, and congratulations to Dura, because they are, as I said, they're punching above their weight, and they're a small independent publisher, and it really is a great book.
Always love expressing love for small independent publishers. No, that's great. Okay.
No, it's wonderful, and Alan McMonigal does a really good job, and Lisa on the editorial on this one. So well done to them.
Okay, number 2. What have you got?
Well, because I'm so in love with Alan McMonigal, I also have his novel. This novel is absolutely stellar, right? Laura Cassidy's Walk of Fame. If you missed the long walk in Galway, also it's a beautiful cover following up from his novel Ithaca. So Laura Cassidy's Walk of Fame centres around Laura Cassidy, clearly, but she is a very complex young woman. She's trying to follow in her father's footsteps in drama, and she really has very strong self-belief in some ways, but she's quite complicated, and it takes some dark twists, as it would with Alan. And I mean, he might become the Irish master of the unreliable narrator, but Laura's sister Jennifer returns into her life with her young son Juan, and there's going to be a play put on in the Town Hall Theatre, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Laura is going for the Blanche Dubois part. And I loved it because just the characters and the artistic people that hang around Galway, and even the guy, the director of the theatre is Stephen Fallow, who runs this chaos theatre, and it cracked me up. But also, it's that really fine line between dark humour and sadness, really, because she's a woman that's grieving and she's lost her father, which was very young, and I think that's a really difficult topic to write about. I was very worried when he took on a female protagonist also, but he did a really good job on it, so well done. So that's Laura Cassidy's Walk of Fame, and a book that came out just on the cusp of lockdown. So with Picture Press, and that's not easy for anyone when that happens. And
mine is there somewhere on that shelf right there. It will get read. It's in the pile of things that are definitely going to get read.
It's so good. There's a Joycean stream of consciousness outside Nora Barnacle's house in it, and I'll tell you, it's some of his best writing in my opinion.
Fantastic. Okay.
Oh, it's like a marathon, and I'm no good at marathons.
You're doing a really good job so far.
Well done.
The first 2 out of the way. Take your time. There's no rush, really. Particularly not.
Rick, did you paint the wall in the back behind you in honor of my novel?
Yes, I did. Is that the right answer?
Actually, that is, because this woman, Jan Carson, was looking for that colour paint. So, get in touch with her. Yeah. So next up, we have the wonderful The Fire Starters by Northern novelist, sorry, it's all over the place, Jan Carson. Actually, this has just come out recently in a gorgeous paperback black edition.
Yeah.
This is set in East Belfast, and it follows 2 fathers, Sammy Agnew and a doctor called Jonathan, and Jonathan has what we might call an extraordinary child, maybe.
I'm wondering if I'm the only person who is seeing Elaine pause like that.
It's really right. So, am I okay now?
No, that's good. That may have been mine as opposed to yours. You're back. That's great. You're back. Whatever the last sentence was, go back to the beginning of the last sentence because we missed it.
Oh, sorry. Jan Carson, I just said she is just such a brilliant, specific writer. She's just she's so measured. And she kind of delves into magic realism and you don't expect it. I don't know why, because it's East Belfast, it's summer, fire starters, obviously, the tall fires. And it really is steeped in a loyalist tradition, in a sense of something I didn't understand and I hadn't read much about it. So I really, really enjoyed this book. And she really draws her characters extremely well, as did Anna Burns with Milkman. So great stuff coming from there. But if you haven't read it, and many people probably will, but I would highly recommend this. It's just, it's exhilarating.
One of the things about the Firestarters as well is that it started slow as a book and it is slowly gaining this incredible momentum that appears to be happening around it. It's been nominated for prizes this year as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many more people talking about it. I think it's the definition of an absolutely beautiful slow burner of a book. And no pun intended.
And actually, Rick, on that, I read it quickly when I got it first because I was interviewing Jan and I reread it. And you can see, and I know you're not supposed to dog-ear books, but this one is pretty dog-eared because, you know, when I reread it, it was just something about it that I just thought, I loved the way she went into this magic realist space, because I guess writing about the traditions of the north of Ireland must be very difficult for a writer, you know. Yeah. And it opened a space for her, yeah.
She was one of the guests on one of the much earlier episodes of Shelf Analysis. If people want to go back and have a look and see Jan talk about the book as well. Okay, that's super. What's next?
Going a little bit political. Many people might have this already. This is correspondence. I don't know. I'm going left, right with my thing. Sorry, spatially.
See what happens. Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. So Correspondences is a book published or edited by Jessica Traynor and Stephen Ray, the actor. So Jessica Traynor, the brilliant Dublin-based poet. And she pairs writers and artists with somebody that was living in direct provision or had experience of immigration. And together they tell a story, separately or together. It's absolutely wonderful. Direct provision is just such a despicable system. It's not working, and clearly in this time it's definitely not working, and all proceeds of this go to the movement of asylum seekers in Ireland. There's a wonderful pairing of a woman called Donna Vuma and Arnold Thomas Fanning, and Donna has experience of living in direct provision in Limerick. I've met with her on some occasions. She really is a really inspiring woman, and she talks about you know, seeking asylum is not a crime. It's a fundamental human right that should be safeguarded by all nations. And she writes this really powerful and very plain, simple, you know, you can't argue with her essay. But then Arnold Thomas Fanning responds with an essential journey. And he talks about going to meet her. And going to meet her perhaps in the Direct Provision Centre, but he ends up actually meeting her in Limerick bus station because he feels he shouldn't be putting in on her space that enough people have. And his essay, it really is food for thought. This is a Correspondences edited by Jessica Traynor and Stephen Ray, and it's really worth picking up a copy of that. I'm going to stay going, Rick. Is that okay? I'm going to go through all these books behind me now, and my shelves will fall.
I have another free beer inside. I can get, you know, I can sort that out, and I'll go and, you know, get a different one, and we can bring one in. If people get a chance to have a listen back, maybe I know it's a long time ago, but the Christmas special of the book show that we did on Radio 1 at Christmas, Stephen Ray was on it. He was talking about Correspondences and then was reading some of the pieces from it as well. I know that's a while back, but it's a good show. People want to.
And look, it's not an answer. It's not an answer to this imperfect solution that we are. Well, this imperfect system, but it's at least raising consciousness, and you know, I think that's really important. Next up, she's tuned in, and I did not know that because she did not know I was coming on. I have to give a shout out to Constellations because I think it's after being shortlisted for a plethora of prizes, and very unrightly, I don't know what all those prizes are, but this one is non-fiction, so I would never be in that anyway. But Constellations, look, the essay in Ireland is just flying it at the moment. Ian Mullaney, Emily Pine, The Stinging Fly are publishing some really wonderful work. But this, I loved this because it's kind of been referred to as, you know, I think it's reflections from life. It's more, to me, this, okay, it tracks Sinead's journey through all her health issues and her complicated childhood with all that she has gone through, quite a lot. But it's very outward focused. I mean, there's some wonderful, it's very intergenerational. She brings in her Aunt Terry, and in that wonderful essay, Our Mutual Friend, I read that, and I'll let you in on a secret, Rick, since it's only the two of us having a chat. I read that in a forecourt of a garage, eating a chicken roll with a bottle of Lucasade on a Sunday morning. So you can only imagine the state.
Were you a little the worse for wear?
I was a bit.
Okay.
And I remember reading the essay, and it made me cry and cry. And I came home and I said to Ray, you have to read this essay, because it just really brought me back to a time when I lost somebody in my teens. Sinead's a bit older in this essay. She's so good with music, with pop references, with art references. She just very cleverly weaves everything together. So if you haven't read it, you may be the only person in Ireland that hasn't read it, but pick up a copy of this wonderful book of essays. And lastly, I think they're very brave, these essay writers, to be putting, you know, their lives into books for people. I think it's a brave, courageous act, which is why I've gone to fiction.
I've lost count. Have you? How many more have you got? Have you got more?
No, I've only one TBR, and I'll explain that one. So, okay. And just this, I'm going to do. Everyone is talking about the classics. We have to read a classic, right? Okay, we're in lockdown, so we should be having a look at maybe, I don't know, the Tin Drum or the Magic Mountain or something. But this is a classic, and it's only 5 years old. But I think it might be my favorite book ever, and it is Pond by Claire Louise Bennett. So this is the Stinging Flies edition. It's also published by Fitzcarraldo, and it's published by Riverhead in the States. But, I mean, this is a book that made me feel like I totally disappeared. And that's really good. You know, like as a writer, when you're reading a book, you're kind of looking at the technical aspects of it. You're kind of going, oh, they brought in that character, blah, blah, blah. And you don't tend to enjoy reading as much as maybe pre-writing. But this book, I mean, I just got so lost in it. It's really funny, and it really touches on light and dark. It's seemingly distinct stories, but actually it's threaded very well together with this first-person narrator who is just so utterly observant of everything from food to a Portaloo. She takes herself off into isolation, and I think if there was to be a book that would get you through isolation, it is actually this book, in a way. Maybe it wouldn't, I don't know, maybe you want a fast-paced plot, but that it's okay to just observe, to be. And I think Bennett is one of the finest writers writing in Ireland today. I think we're very lucky to have her. I can't wait for something else to come out. I know she had in a short story recently in the White Review, The Russian Man, which is fantastic. But yeah, I'm hanging on to see what's next, but that's a really good one. Really, really good. The honorary mention is a book I haven't read, but my son Finn is reading it at the moment and is a little bit through it and told me it's wonderful. So I asked him would he come on to talk, and he said if he did, would he have to have a shower? And I said yes. So he said no. Okay. Because he's running around outside.
Everybody has their red lines. Okay.
So it's Dara McAnulty's Diary of a Young Naturalist. Have you seen this? It's just
out this week. Shelf, again on the shelf right there. Yeah, it is.
Look at he's I don't know much about Dara, but he wrote this book when he was at school. He seems to be just a really, really great kid. A really, you know, the future is bright for people like Dara. He sent me a message on Twitter wondering had I got the badges to go with the book, and I said no, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, no. And he said he's been put in the post. Look. Fabulous. So wear one on your lapel. But this is a good book. But Finn said he loves it. He said he loves the interweaving of Finn's only 12, but he said he just loves the interweaving of his personal story, you know, with the outside world, which Finn loves too. So anybody with teens or tweenies in lockdown, or yourself, this is definitely worth ordering and purchasing. I have to read it though, so it's TV or as you say yourself.
Fantastic. Right? That's good enough for me.
That's it.
They're an incredible list of books. That's a really amazing selection of stuff tonight. Thank you so much, and I'm glad I got the chance to have you on in advance of the book, because people
Thanks so
can
much.
right now, if they want to, order it from the independent bookstore of their choice as it comes out this coming August, because they won't regret it. It's a fantastic piece of work. Elaine, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.
And
Thanks
I'm
so much for having me on.
absolutely sure we will talk again at some stage later in the year somewhere else. But listen,
I have no
thanks again for
doubt.
coming
But
on.
thanks for all the support.
Not a bother. See you
Enjoy
later.
the sun. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Elaine.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. That's Elaine Feeney in Galway. That is it from me for tonight for Shelf Analysis. We will have a brand new episode for you next week on Wednesday. Starting next week, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock every week, we'll have a brand new Shelf Analysis for you both here in the Ricochet Book Club. And fingers crossed, technology allowing, we will also be doing it live on the YouTube channel as well. For you friends who aren't into Facebook, they don't do that kind of thing. So you'll find all of the details on the YouTube channel. Just look up Shelf Analysis and here in the Ricochet Book Club, live in both places next Wednesday night. I say that out loud because it means now I have to make it happen. Have yourself a lovely and a fantastic bank holiday weekend. I'm on RTE Gold tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. and on RTE Radio 1 Saturday afternoon between 2 and 6, playing a plethora of incredible music that will make you entirely forget about where you are and what's going on in the world if you're not around, if you fancy that. We'll announce the new books of the month in the book club Tuesday of next week. And I'll see you here for another Shelf Analysis on Wednesday. Take it easy. Good luck.